Sometimes in Roblox, we want to detect when an object in the game changes, and there's a multitude of reasons why you might want to do this. Perhaps you want to detect when a player's health changes so you can update your custom health bar, or if perhaps the player's leader stats change, you might want to save that to your data store. Okay, these are just some examples. They're not necessarily the main uses, but I just want to teach you today how you can detect when an instance, aka an object in Roblox, changes. Even if one of its most hidden properties changes, we will know about it. So it's fairly straightforward. You just need to firstly get an instance. We'll just use this folder, for example, in the workspace. You say .changed, and you will see it says fired immediately after a property. Okay, it's just gone off the screen there. After a property of the instance changes. So whenever you change a property, or if the game changes it, if something happens, maybe it moves and the position property changes, perhaps you change its name, perhaps some other script changes it, we will know about it. So you'll connect it to a function, and then in this function, we also have the name of the property. That's what Roblox hands to us. And we can print out name of property, and we can concatenate this to some text to say has changed. And let's run this. Let's see what happens. So nothing happens straight away. That's because nothing has changed in the folder. But let's change the name of the folder, and it will say name has changed. Okay, let's move the folder to a different location. Let's put it into server script service. Let's change the parent property. Oh look, you can see the parent has changed. So that is how it works. And now a folder doesn't have that many properties, so it's not the best object to use in order to explain this to you. But let's create a part, and let's change our script to instead use that part, and we'll show you a few more. So don't worry about this one. This is a property to do with the network that Roblox controls. But let's move this part around, and you can see suddenly, all of the time, nearly every single frame, it's printing out orientation has changed, rotation has changed, position has changed, C-frame has changed, and that is because we're moving the object. Now let's let go, and you can see it suddenly stops. Let's change the color, and every time we change the color, you can see it's printing every frame to say we have a new brick color or a new color. So really, really powerful, because you can detect when things change in the game. And again, this applies to every single property. And sometimes you don't want to attach a listener to every single property, because it is a little bit over the top, right? If you only want to listen out for when one specific property changes, why would you want to listen for the others? All it's going to do is take up more processing power in your game. Okay, albeit a slight amount, but still, for the best practice, if you only want to track one specific property, rather than saying changed, you can say game.workspace.part, obviously, to get the thing you want to reference, colon, GetPropertyChangedSignal. And in these brackets, you want to give the name of the property. So if we want anchored, for example, then we'll just say anchored. And then this function will return an event. Okay, this is our event. We've got it here because we chose the changed event. But what this is going to do is it's going to create a custom event for us for when this specific property, and this one only, changes, and it will return it. So we can now imagine we've got our event. So like we do with all other events in Roblox, we can just connect it to a function. Nothing to pass here, because we obviously know the name of the property. If this is firing, it's got to be the anchored property. And so then we can print the anchored property has been changed. Now let's remove the original changed event. We no longer need that because we're using GetPropertyChangedSignal. And let's test this out again. So what we should expect to see is when we move the part, nothing should happen. When we change the name, nothing should happen, right? But let's change the anchored property and watch the output to see what happens. It's printing out that the anchored property has been changed. Now, where would you use GetPropertyChangedSignal? Okay, most of the time this is used for values, okay, and it's been quite common in Roblox that people will, well, game developers will create a value for the status bar, okay? And it will usually go in replicated storage, and it will display text which will appear on players' screens, such as intermission, or round is starting, or round over. And typically you set this value on the server, okay? And because the server has the authority to change it, you don't want anyone else to be able to change it, because why would you? The game is controlled on the server. And you could control it to say intermission, perhaps 5 seconds later you'd want it to say round starting. This is a very, very top level implementation, not detailed in any regard, but you get the idea, right? And what would happen is then on the client where the GUI is, all right, you'd have a text label, and you'd have a script in there which would listen out to see when the value property of this status string value changes. And when it does change, well, we want to update our little status bar over here. And so what you do is you would say game.replicatedStorage.status GetPropertyChangedSignal, because we're only interested in when the value changes, and then we'd connect to a function, and when it updates, we'd say script.parent.text equals game.replicatedStorage.status.value, okay? And yes, you would want to set it when the player first joins to whatever the current value is, but what you would then see is when we just join the game, we'll just set this to have no text to begin with. We'll click on play here. You'll notice every time we update it from the server, which should be around about now, it updates on the client, because the GetPropertyChangedSignal is firing, because this value is changing. So that is how you make a status bar. I bet you weren't expecting that, in a changed and GetPropertyChangedSignal tutorial. Okay, you've got 3 for the price of 1 there. You've got changed, GetPropertyChangedSignal, and also a status bar thrown in. So I hope you found that useful. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe for more tutorials. Let me know in the comments as well what other videos you'd like to see, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.